Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today, we've got a pretty important update coming straight from Canada's Immigration and Refugee Citizenship Canada, IRCC. That's been on a lot of people's minds recently. If you've been following Canada's immigration process, you probably already know that there's been a major backlog in immigration applications, and it's not just a small issue, it's growing every month. Yeah, this is something that's affecting a lot of people. From people applying for tourist visas to those waiting for permanent residency, citizenship, and everything in between. So, in today's video, I'm going to explain what exactly is going on, what the government is doing about it, and how it might affect those of you who are waiting to immigrate to Canada. Stick around, because you don't want to miss this. Okay, first things first, what's this backlog all about? The immigration backlog refers to the growing number of immigration applications that haven't been processed yet. So, it's essentially a pileup of paperwork, requests, and forms that the Canadian immigration authorities haven't had time to go through or have been delayed in processing for one reason or another. This can involve visa applications, like for tourists or students, work permits, permanent residency applications, and citizenship applications, among others. Now, you might be wondering, why is this happening? I see, it sounds like it's a simple issue, but there are actually quite a few factors at play. First, we have to talk about the pandemic. Yeah, you heard me right. The COVID-19 pandemic completely disrupted immigration systems worldwide. You know, countries like Canada had to slow down operations, reduce staff, and adjust to working remotely. Of course, these changes had an impact on the speed and efficiency of processing applications. Interviews were canceled, offices were closed for months, and many applicants had to wait longer than expected. But it wasn't just a pandemic. Even before COVID, there was already an upward trend in the number of people applying to immigrate to Canada. And let's be real, Canada has one of the most attractive immigration programs globally, with a high standard of living, a diverse society, and robust health care. So, more people than ever before were looking to settle in Canada, and naturally, the number of applications grew. Right? But let's talk numbers. Canada, being a highly desired destination, has seen huge spikes in immigration applications over the years. And as of 2023, it's clear that the backlog is not just a temporary issue, it's a long-term challenge. In fact, the total number of immigration applications in Canada has reached record levels, and we're seeing thousands of applications piling up each day. To give you an idea, there were over 2.4 million applications for different immigration programs just by the end of 2023. Yeah, that's a lot of paperwork to go through. This, of course, puts immense pressure on the immigration system, and the Canadian government is struggling to keep up with the demand. Why? Well, it's because the number of new applications is growing faster than the capacity of IRCC to process them. This leads to delays, which means people applying for visas, work permits, or residency have to wait much longer than they expected. So what is the Canadian government doing to solve this? You might be wondering what measures Canada is taking to deal with this growing backlog, right? Okay, let's talk about the steps IRCC has been trying to implement to clear the backlog. First off, they've been hiring more staff and increasing their workforce. Yeah, they're bringing in more people to handle the growing number of applications, which could hopefully help speed things up. But, this isn't a quick fix. It takes time to train new employees and integrate them into the process. Additionally, the government has been working on improving its digital infrastructure. For example, they've been pushing for more online applications, which should, in theory, make it easier for people to submit their documents and for IRCC to process them more efficiently. With technology improving, IRCC hopes to move away from the slower paper-based processes and handle applications more quickly. But, you know, these things don't happen overnight. Another thing they've been focusing on is streamlining the application process itself. What does that mean? Basically, making the steps less complicated and reducing unnecessary paperwork. This would help applicants save time and also reduce the workload on immigration officers. But again, streamlining processes doesn't necessarily mean the backlog will be cleared instantly. It's a gradual process. But despite these efforts, the backlog isn't disappearing anytime soon. And that's, part of the frustration for people who've been waiting for months or even years to get an answer on their immigration status. Right? Let's get into how this backlog affects actual applicants. So, how does this backlog impact the average person trying to immigrate to Canada? Well, for one thing, waiting times for application processing have increased dramatically. For example, if you're applying for a visitor visa or student permit, it might take several months longer than it would have in the past. For permanent residency applicants, some people have been waiting years for a response. And that's really frustrating, especially when you've made big life decisions based on the expectation that your application would be processed within a reasonable time frame. What's worse is that for some people, these delays are causing serious financial strain. Imagine this. You've applied for a job in Canada, plan to move with your family, and everything is set up. You're just waiting on your work permit or permanent residency approval. But then, the months drag on and you don't have any answers. During this waiting period, you may have to hold off on making further plans, investing money, or even quitting your current job. This can lead to uncertainty and financial insecurity for many families. On the flip side, there are some people who are in a bit of a limbo, unable to move forward with their lives because they can't get their visas processed in time. This uncertainty can be stressful, especially when you've already invested a lot in the process, like paying for application fees, taking language tests, medical exams, etc. I see, but the backlog isn't just affecting individuals. It's also hurting the Canadian economy. Yeah, you might not think about it, but this backlog is having a ripple effect on Canada's economy too. Many industries, especially those in tech, healthcare, and skilled trades, rely on foreign workers to fill job shortages. Now, with delays in processing work permits and immigration applications, Canadian employers are struggling to fill critical positions. So, while applicants are waiting for their visas, companies in Canada are left with gaps in their workforce, which could potentially harm business operations and slow down economic growth. A lot of tech companies, for instance, are desperate to hire highly skilled workers from abroad, but the delays in immigration processing are making it difficult to get people in the door. And, this isn't just a matter of inconvenience. It's affecting productivity, causing delays in projects, and creating a backlog of work in itself. And when you think about it, it's a bit of a paradox. Canada needs immigrants to help fuel its economy and drive growth, but the system isn't keeping up with the demand. So it creates this cycle where people are eager to contribute to the country's economy, but they're stuck waiting for approvals that seem to take forever. Okay, so what's next? All right, the big question, what happens next? Well, as I mentioned, Canada is working to address the backlog, but it's going to take time. They're investing in technology, hiring more staff, and streamlining the process. But even with these efforts, it's going to be a slow process to clear the backlog completely. So if you're currently in the immigration process, it's important to stay patient and realistic about the timeline. This isn't going to be an overnight fix, and you might experience significant delays. But also, don't get discouraged. Canada's immigration system is still one of the most accessible and inclusive in the world, and there are plenty of opportunities to immigrate. It's just going to take a little extra time for now. What should you do if you're in the process? If you're already in the process, keep an eye on updates from the IRCC. They often post updates about their backlog and any changes in their processing times. So staying informed will help you understand where you stand in the queue. If you haven't yet applied but are planning to, make sure you're aware of the current processing times and any potential delays. And of course, try to stay as organized as possible. Having all your documents and forms ready will help when the time comes to process your application. Okay, that's a wrap for today's video. I hope this clears things up for you and gives you a bit of insight into what's happening with Canada's immigration backlog. It's definitely a challenging situation for many, but hopefully, the government will continue to make improvements over time. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions or thoughts, drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to respond and help out. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching our video. Please hit the button and subscribe the channel.